Alright, welcome. So this video is the dangers of unnatural food. So we're going to quickly talk about the dangers of eating what is the modern American diet, and it has extended beyond America, but I have identified that America is definitely the worst as far as this goes. Why this diet is so bad, and then we're going to quickly talk about what the optimal diet would look like. So before we get into the video, quickly, if you guys want to join the Academy of Self-Mastery for early access, the link for that is down in the description. And right now we're running early access, obviously, so you guys can get a good deal on that. And I will also be releasing ebooks very soon. So if you guys are looking forward to that, you can watch for... I'm going to be adding another link down there for my Kindle page. I'm uploading Amazon ebooks right now, and eventually we're going to work on publishing. But the first one that's coming out is a full guide to meditation for beginners. So if that's something you're interested in, you can go ahead and check that out. And if you are here on my channel just because you saw a video about food, I will also be making a diet book, a full guide on diet, as well as I'm going to be making a couple of like recipe books, just like basically like full meal plans, full recipes based on how I eat. Maybe I'll just do like one big book that has essentially all of the essential recipes for the type of diet that we eat. So that way, like, I'm teaching you guys restrict your diet down to nothing, but what do you actually eat? How do you actually like structure your meals and stuff? So if that's something you guys are interested in, you can look forward to that. And I am opening back up my coaching. So we're calling it the Academy of Self-Mastery Mentorship, but it is essentially the one-on-one coaching program. So if that's something you guys want to look into and join into, there is a Calendly link at the bottom, the Academy of Self-Mastery Mentorship, and you can join there as well. So that's for anybody who wants to take their self-improvement to the next level. If you want to learn how to achieve your goals faster and easier, through structure, through discipline, and through certain techniques and practices, that program is going to be good for you. So quickly, why is the modern American diet so trash? All right, so why do we hate on the modern American diet? Why do we hear people from other countries hating on the modern American diet? The main problem with the modern American diet is the lack of natural food, right? So most of the food that we're eating now is full of a ton of chemicals, pesticides, preservatives, hormones, things that are disrupting or blocking the natural processes of our body. And therefore, the more we eat it, the more compromised our health becomes. A good example of this is if you go to McDonald's. You get a cheeseburger. I used to convince myself I was eating healthy because I was eating cheeseburgers. I was eating triple cheeseburgers, so because there's more protein, somehow that makes it healthier. But in reality, they mix the meat, the beef, with a lot of preservatives, a lot of hormones, a lot of bullshit, chemicals that are actually bad for our body. So even the healthy aspect of that meal isn't that great for us. But then you look at the bun that you're eating is full of another long ass grocery list of ingredients that in all actuality most of them you don't even know what they are, and the ones that you do know what they are, we can identify that they are 100% bad for our bodies. So when you see things like this, and then that doesn't even get into the fact that they're cooking these foods in seed oils, which is another completely disruptive food group, right? Seed oils are another completely disruptive food group to our health and our bodies and our guts. But the key here is that most of the health complications that we face as a society come from the fact that we aren't eating natural foods anymore, right? So America has an obesity issue, right? And that obesity issue is simply because of the fact that we have removed natural fat from our diet and we have replaced it with unnatural fats, seed oils, right? We've removed things like cholesterol from our diets. We've removed things that are essential for life as human beings, right? Essential nutrients, and replaced it with unnatural foods. But then we're taught that, we're just gaining weight because either that's your body type, that's just how your body is, or you're just gaining weight because it's the food you're eating, You need to diet. You need to, restrict your calories. But in reality, we don't need to restrict calories. We need to switch what source of calories we're getting. So we need to stop getting 3,000 calories or 2,000 calories a day from burgers and fries and eggs and cereal in the morning, eggs are good, but obviously like breakfast, typical American breakfast, right? You're eating like eggs, bacon, and like syrup and pancakes and cereal in the morning and things like that. So if that's where your calories are coming from, the same 2,000 calories here is going to get you fat, where 2,000 calories of meat, eggs, fruit is going to get you fit and healthy. So the amount of calories you're eating, and food groups like fat, food groups like cholesterol, these are actually good for our bodies, but there's a key factor missing. If you live a sedentary lifestyle, if you are not active, if you are not training and exercising, then cholesterol builds up in the body, and that can cause a health complication. But you will have that problem no matter what source of cholesterol you're getting. So you want to avoid eggs because of cholesterol, but in reality, the cholesterol is not the problem. The lack of exercise and activity is the problem. And on top of that, the things that we've replaced something like eggs with because we're afraid of cholesterol is worse for us in the long run. Another good example of this is vegan meats, right? So if you want to be vegan, if you were going to try to have an argument with me about being vegan, I would say that it is a terrible diet plan because of the fact that there's absolutely no healthy way to get the amount of essential nutrients that you need in your diet. But I'm not here to argue about diets. I'm here to just explain that I don't necessarily think it's the most effective. However, if you are going to do vegan, what I would say to you is just do not touch meat. Don't go and try to replace the thing you're not eating with something that's similar but not exactly the thing. So if you're not going to eat meat, simply don't eat meat. The problem I have in this case with the vegan diet isn't necessarily being vegan. You can do that all you want. If you feel good on vegan, I know a lot of people who feel very great doing an alkaline diet, which is basically you just eat fruit and vegetables and that's it. I know a lot of people who do great on that. So not to diss, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do, but stick to the natural food groups within that diet. So don't say, okay, I'm going to go vegan and stop eating meat, but I'm going to go to the grocery store and I'm going to buy the Beyond Burger meat, right? That stuff is full of pesticides, full of like hormones and like soybean oil and like bullshit, just like bullshit ingredients and bullshit food groups and things that you really don't want in your body and things that will compromise your health. And so don't pick up on unnatural replacements for a food group that you're trying to avoid eating, right? Another thing is I don't eat gluten because I have celiac. So what do I do instead? Do I go and buy all the gluten-free bullshit at the store, go and find gluten-free buns, go out to eat, and I'm always asking for gluten-free burgers and things like that? No, I just don't eat buns anymore. I don't eat bread anymore. And it's just that simple. And it's really not difficult when you look at it from the perspective I do, where eating is for nutrients, eating is for energy, eating isn't so I can enjoy this meal in this moment, it's so I can enjoy every minute of every day that I live. Because if you eat correctly, your entire quality of life increases, and so you have more energy, you have more passion, you have more, light to you, and that's a very helpful thing to have. And therefore, there's a trade-off. I don't eat for pleasure. I don't eat for enjoyment. I eat for nutrients so that I can feel good during the day. And then what I do is I compromise by making it so that I prioritize what am I eating first. Am I eating food that is actually good for me? Am I eating food that I need to survive, to live my best life? And then secondary is, okay, well, how can I make that specific food taste good? I'm not going to add a bunch of adverse ingredients to make the food taste good, but I know how to cook damn well, so how can I make just a plain steak taste good? And it's very simple. It's, I'll give you the sauce right here. It is butter, thyme and rosemary, garlic, and then you baste the steak. That's the best for flavor, honestly. If you want efficiency, a reverse sear method is great, or grilling. That's what I've been doing all summer, is grilling my steaks. But again, because I'm not necessarily optimizing for flavor, I'll grill every single steak that I eat. I'll just throw a good amount of seasoning on it, throw it on the grill, and it's like a 5 or 10 minute process, and it's done. And it's easy that way. So that way, you want to make the excuse that you can't cook at home, but the way that I'm teaching, the diet I'm teaching, barely requires any cooking. You still have to cook all of your meals, but grilling a steak for 10 minutes takes virtually nothing, right? So how do we eat for optimal health, energy, and performance? So I will say this, it is different for everybody, right? Everybody has a different form of what is going to give them the most energy. A lot of people do really well on more fruit. A lot of people do really well on a carnivore diet. It kind of just depends on you. But the main consistent factor across every single individual, every single person is single ingredient foods, right? So all that you really want to focus on is reducing your diet down to single ingredient foods, right? So this could mean single vegetables like squash, zucchinis, things like broccoli, onions, peppers, cucumbers, things like that. Single ingredients, so meat as well, steaks, ground beef, chicken if you want chicken. I don't do chicken because there are added hormones and hormone disruptors. So chicken is a maybe for me, but chicken is an essential one that you can include if you want. Salmon and like other types of wild caught fatty fish. And then fruit, a lot of fruit. Love the fruit. And then finally would be eggs and dairy. If you can get raw dairy, so the better the source to dairy, obviously the better it is for your health and the more you'll feel these benefits. But if you can get closer to raw dairy, that's perfect. And then the last thing would be eggs, making sure you're getting pasture-raised eggs. And then obviously grass-fed beef if you're getting beef. But if you're eating meals throughout the day that are just built up and made up of different foods of these single ingredient food groups, you're going to start to feel amazing during the day. So an example meal for me would be in the morning I'll eat a bowl of berries, and sometimes I'll like drizzle some honey on that. And then I'll have on a plate, I'll do either steak and eggs, or I'll do steak, eggs, avocado is another good one. Or I'll do like a steak with a mango or something along those lines, right? That's one meal for me. And then another meal might be a pile of ground beef, a couple of eggs, and some avocado is a good one. And then dinner might look something like a steak, baked potato, and asparagus, something along those lines, right? And you can mix and match, but the idea is just eating as close to single ingredient foods as you possibly can. And then, so when you're shopping, how do you actually shop? What do you look for? How do you identify what food you want to be eating, and how do you ignore what you don't? So the labels that you're looking for when it comes to beef and red meat is grass-fed, ideally 100% grass-fed or grass-fed, grass-finished. Then organic is another one. So this is like for fruits and for eggs and things like that, and also chicken. You want to get chicken organic. But if you can find organic, certified organic for eggs is usually what determines a good egg, or pasture raised. And then raw dairy and raw honey as well. So you want to go raw for the dairy and honey, grass-fed for the beef, and organic for everything and anything else. But raw dairy is great, but it's harder to find. So if you can find raw dairy, perfect. If you know how to look for it in the grocery store, if you read the ingredients list on like cheese or butter, I just found raw butter yesterday. But if you read the ingredients list, it will say either cultured milk or just milk. That means it's non-pasteurized. If it's pasteurized, it'll say pasteurized milk, and most cheeses that you look at in the store will say pasteurized or homogenized milk. It is basically reduced in nutrients, so we want to get closer to raw dairy as possible. And then raw honey as well, we want glyphosate-free honey, and we want no additives inside the honey. So a lot of things will have like high fructose corn syrups and stuff like that, or different types of sugary syrups. To make up, a portion of the honey so that they can sell more, obviously. But you don't want to buy honey that contains that bullshit, because we want to eat for nutrients. So we're looking for raw honey. It'll include all of that nutrients. It'll have more of the glucose that we're looking for, and, better for us overall. The next thing is, so this is more my diet. This is how I structure my diet. But when I go to the grocery store, I'm looking for basically 4 things, if I don't already have some of these 4. So I'm looking for fruit. I'm filling my basket with fruit, because that's the first thing you walk into in the grocery store. Then I'm walking over and I am getting meat. So I'm buying multiple steaks for the week. I'm buying a couple packs of ground beef. And sometimes I've been grabbing bison as well, a pack of ground bison, which is another good option if you're trying to eat like this and you get bored of just eating beef every day. You can switch it up with like bison or something like that. Then I go and I get eggs if I need them. Again, pasture raised or certified organic. And then I end with grabbing any dairy that I need. If I need milk, I grab milk, anything like that. But mainly just focusing on what are the main ingredients and food groups that make me feel good and that I like to eat, and just eat that every day. And like get over the need for variety, get over all of this stuff, because we're eating for health, we're eating for longevity, and humans are creatures of habit. So realistically, you will find that same form of joy and pleasure once you've created a routine out of this than you will with anything else. So it's just as important. And then another added thing is, so like fatty fish are really good, for example. Sometimes I'll eat like rice is good, for example. So you can include other things as well. But the idea is basically have a foundation of like beef, eggs, and fruit, and then like add in different vegetables, add in different things from there. But if you have that as your base, you're going to feel the best. You're going to have the most energy, and that is the most nutrient-dense diet that you can have. So that's all from me, guys. If you're interested in the Academy of Self-Mastery mentorship program, you can go down and book a call with me with that link in the description. But yeah, that is all I have for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like and comment down below something that you guys learned while watching. But that is all I got for you guys, and I'm out of here. Peace.